This is Pesach Sherbo from Torah for the Nations, but they know a connection with Israel. I'm here with Terry, my co-host, Terry Hayes from Tennessee, and everybody else in the room. It's so good to see everybody. Thank you for being here. If you haven't muted your microphone, please make sure it's on mute so that we don't get any extraneous noises while everything's going on. It is the 27th day of February in the year 2020. It is Thursday morning, 3:02 in the morning here in Spot Israel, and you guys know what time it is wherever you are, and we're glad to have you with us. I want to start off this morning, and this will be a little surprise for Terry, but I want to talk about the blog he just did, because it's a very important reason I want to talk about it. It hit the nail on the head again. Terry, you have such a way with words and expressing yourself. And if anybody hasn't been to amunatrek.com, right, .com, go there. And there's a whole series of blogs, and they're great. They're to the point, and you ought to read them. But this week's one was, where did I hide it? Oh, hidden dangers. Hidden dangers. And it's about essentially zeal. It's about how zealous people get about what they do. And it's a hidden danger in every single thing we do. And I want to give an example of zeal from the Tanakh. And let me get it up in front of me here. Okay, where'd it go? Hello. Okay, I got to get it back up. Okay, let's see if I'm going to try something I've never done before. Let's try this. We're going to share. I think that's it. Do you guys see? What do you see? You don't see it. Okay, how's that? You see it? Terry, you see that mysterious death of Nadav and Avihu?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Wait a minute. It just went away. It's Torah for the Nations now.
How's that?
No, it's still showing. It's still showing the. Actually, showing the B'nai Noah. Is it right? No, Torah for the Nations. There we go. There it is.
All right. Oh, wow. What about that? It's over on my second screen. Okay. This is from Parsha Shmini. And it's really important because there's a lot of debate what happened to Nadav and Abihu and why it happened. They offered a strange fire before God, which he had not commanded. The result being a fire went out from God and consumed them, and they died before God. And that's about all it says in the Torah. That's about all it says. But this it's so full of meaning. And here, they didn't sin when they took strange fire before God. This is what God spoke, saying, I shall be sanctified by those who are close to me. And Rashi in the Midrash says, Moses said to Aaron, God said, I will be sanctified by those close to me. I thought it referred to me and you, Moses is saying to Aaron. Now I see that they, Nadav and Abihu, were greater than both of us. Rabbi Chaim ibn Attar writes in his commentary, Orach Chaim, theirs is a death by divine kiss, like that experienced by perfectly righteous. It's only the righteous die when the divine kiss approaches them. While they died they were approaching the divine kiss. Let me explain that. Our life is run by something called Ratzo V'Shav. Our soul within us It was sent down here by God, but it's constantly striving to get back to God. When it comes into our body, our soul could just jump right up to God if it wanted to, if it really, really wanted to, and then our body would die and we wouldn't be here. So it's knowing when, as you go up, when to turn around and come back. And a lot of the sages say, if we didn't have this within us, this want to be here on earth, every time we were in fervent prayer, our soul would just leave and go back. That's what happens when our body dies anyway. And we have some control over that, not when we die, but while we're alive, if we just, and it goes back up. Nadav and Avihu. Let's think about these two guys a minute. They are the sons of Aaron, the high priest. They were designated as high priests, and they would, I don't know how to stop the share screen, but I'll try it.
Up at the top, it should have a thing that says stop share.
Oh, there it is. Okay. All right.
Now, what passage is that again? What's its reference?
It's in Leviticus, and it is Parashah Shmini, and it doesn't exactly track. Wait a minute, maybe it does down in footnotes. Leviticus 10, 1 and 2, maybe.
Okay.
What is this? What happened to them? What happened was, just imagine, you're the first high priest is your dad. You're his designated sit-in because he can't do it 24/7. So there are times when you have to go up and be the high priest. On Yom Kippur, it wouldn't happen, but on other days, maybe on Shabbat, maybe on holidays, both of them, they are so excited. They can't control themselves. It's so wonderful that they're, wow, the first designated assistant high priest, their dad's the first high priest. Look how wonderful this is. They're so excited to be serving God and to have the truth. And they decide they're going to put together a mixture of spices that they want to take to him to show their love for him, their zealousness. Hey, I know you told us to use this one, but we're putting this together out of our love for you. We're going to do this. Our zealousness, we're going to do this because we want to show you how good we are and how much we love you. And as they approach with the fire pans, God, some people say, gave them a divine kiss, but fire came from the sky and devoured only them. Those standing around them, it didn't hurt. They went poof, and they were like gone. Crispy critters, I call it. Yes.
For me, especially pertaining to the subject I wrote on, I contemplated about adding this into my blog, and I figured it would made it too long if I got into it because it's a subject on its own. But in verse 1, in the Ark Scroll, toward the end of the verse, where it says, they brought before Hashem an alien fire that he had not commanded them. And to me, that's a key thing, especially for us Noahites.
That's the point I'm getting into right now.
Okay, sorry.
Their zealousness to show God how great they are, how much they love him, they're deciding what they want to do for God instead of God doing what God told them to do. Got to let this really sink in. In their zealousness, they decided they were going to show God how much they love him and how much they care for him by doing something he didn't ask, but not doing what he did ask. He said that only the specific mixture of spices will be brought into the Holy of Holies. Nothing else ever. They ignored it. But they figured it could be ignored because they're showing how much they love him and how zealous they are for him. And God said, no, that's not what I want from you. Not a shot. And this was, when something happens in Torah, especially as graphic as this, it's up to us to understand why and what happened and apply it to ourselves. Now, I figured Terry was trying to keep his blog to the point and straight, but it just gave me a great lead in to what I want to talk about this week anyway. The wonderful thing about God is when you do what he says, you can't get any closer to him than that. The minute you start mixing in what you think he would like you to do or doing commandments that he hasn't commanded you, you're off the track. All he asks from you is to do what he says to do. Nothing more. So when you start pushing things, look, God, I love you so much. Look what I'm doing. Now, you guys have seen this in churches before. You've seen it all over the place. God doesn't want that. If he wanted that, he would have told you he wanted it. He's not bashful. But he wants you to just do what he says to do, plain and simple. Nothing difficult. So why on earth did they decide to do this? It's us. We're human beings. We want to show God how much we love him, and we're going to do more and more and more. And we do it before we put in order what we're doing for him that he wants, which is not good. So this, look how this affected everyone around. Aaron couldn't even mourn for his sons. He's the high priest. Moses had somebody else come and take him away and bury him like that, get him out of the way. And then Aaron hesitates in what he has to do. Moses looks at him and says a very famous saying that I think Nike stole. Just do it. Just do what God tells you to do. Just do it. Because he wanted to know why he didn't light the menorah. So it's an important thing to know that when you get this zealousness for God, all he's asking you with all that zeal, all he's asking you to do, just do what I tell you to do. If I tell you to do X, and I tell somebody else to do Y, I don't want you to do Y. And I don't want them to do X. Do what I'm telling you to do. We think, and we're used to this, and this is how human beings are, this is how we're brought up, is that if we show more, even though it's not asked of us, it's better. Because look at who I am. That's really what it's about. It's about ego. Ego is bad. Doing what God wants is good. Ego is what we call the Yetzer Hara. In the old days, you used to see the cartoons with the angel on one shoulder and the little devil sitting on the other shoulder. I haven't seen that in a long time. I guess that gives away my age. The important thing to remember is you can be zealous at doing what he wants, not what you want. Now, one of the dangers that is happening in the Noahide world is that people think that they have to learn all this stuff from Torah. And I saw a discussion in a group, I guess it was last week, maybe it was this week, about somebody shaving their legs for a swim meet. There's a big discussion about it. I didn't understand the discussion, to be honest with you. Because there are certain things that God says is okay, and there are certain things that God says aren't okay. And if a young man's competing in a swim meet, and they're judging times by 1/100th of a second, and maybe a little less friction will help them break a record or win, So what? So he does it. I'm not getting into the issue of modesty here now, but it's the intent of why he was doing what he was doing. He wasn't doing it to act like somebody else or a different sex or anything like that. Now, that doesn't justify everything, but that's the way you have to look at things. In their zealousness to do what you want to do, you're going to have to check what it is you've decided to do to make sure you're not taking strange fire before the Lord. You're not taking something before him that he hasn't asked you for. You know, God is not that complicated. He puts things on a level that we can understand. It's like, and this is a basic story that's told all through Jewish literature, and it's told over and over and over again, where a father is raising his son, and he's giving him knowledge, and he's giving him Torah knowledge, he's giving him how to live knowledge. And the son is having a really difficult time learning, and he's not understanding completely what's going on. And so the father goes to the rabbi and says, you know, I can't do anything with my son. I can't get him to learn. I don't know what's wrong with him. He doesn't retain anything. There's something wrong. So the rabbi says, okay, let me come to the next time you two guys study together. And he does, and he sits and listens for 45 minutes. He sees the kids fidgeting the whole time, and the kid can't understand some of the stuff the father's saying. So after the hour's up, the kid leaves, and the rabbi says, the father says, what's wrong with my son? He said, nothing's wrong with your son. What do you mean? He can't learn anything. He doesn't understand. He just gets fidgety and wants to leave. And the rabbi said, you know why? And the father says, oh, if I only knew why my son was like this. He says, because what you're giving him, he can't understand. You have all this knowledge in your head. You're a righteous man. You've studied your whole life. But you're talking to him like he was like you. He says, you have to take all this knowledge you have in your head, and you have to think about what you say. You bring it down and give it to the 10-year-old mind. So you have to talk in the words of a 10-year-old so that he'll understand what you're saying. And he left. A month later, the father goes to the rabbi and says, you know what? My son is doing so well. He's learning so much. He's excited to come and learn. And the rabbi says, that's all you had to do was funnel down your knowledge to a point where he can understand it. Well, we're alive on this earth right now because that's what God does with us. His thoughts aren't ours. We can't understand what he thinks. He understands what we think. But everything we have here is funneled down from he is knowledge, and he funnels it down and gives it to us in a dose that we can understand, a dose that allows us to learn. And you've heard me say this before, the only example I can give you is someone who's geeky. If you've ever been online with a IT network and you're having problems with your computer, you're having problems with your internet, and you explain to them the problem, and they start talking like you're on the same level they are, or this, that. They're using all kinds of words you don't know what they are and everything. How does that help you? It just takes more time to try to figure out what's wrong. The point is, when you talk to somebody, I don't care who it is, whether it's your son, whether it's your wife, your husband, a friend, you cannot use things and talk to them with all the knowledge you may have about a particular subject, because they may not have the knowledge to understand what you're saying. I have people talk to me. I learn from rabbis. I do a lot of studying. And when that happens, when I'm in a class I said, hold on a minute. Let's back up a minute. You went over my head because you're not bringing it down to my level. And they know exactly what I'm talking about when that happens. A lot of people have a problem, especially those that are studying for conversion, that when they listen to a class, the teachers tend to throw in Hebrew words they figure everybody knows. But everybody doesn't know them. And people get lost because of those Hebrew words they throw in. That's why you don't hear me sitting here using Hebrew words that I could use in what I'm saying. I'm trying to keep everything in English and everything, or trying to get my thought out my mouth. It's the hardest thing to do. You can have a thought in your head. We get plenty of them. And we can think out something beautiful. And then we want to relate it to somebody else. And as it comes out of our mouth, we realize, wait a minute, I left half of what I was thinking of up here because I can't get it out my mouth. I can't say it what I really want to say. It's not the other person's fault for not being able to understand it. You haven't been able to put it out, but it's okay because that's what happens to most people. So you really have to be careful what you're saying so people don't take it wrong. One of the things that really I learned a long time ago, and I still haven't learned enough, is that when I talk to people or I write something, somebody gives me back a comment. I said, where did that come from? What did they hear or see in what I said that made them even come up with that question or that comment? So it's important that we're careful how we say things and how we do things. Anyway, that's what came up in my head when I read your blog. And I knew you didn't put everything in there for a purpose, and you said it very good and very succinctly. But people that don't know the story of Nadav and Abihu don't know, and it's the first story in the Bible, in the Tanakh, that talks about when you get overzealous, what happens. And it's a lesson for us all. Most people don't even think about it that way. But when you get into deep study, you get a lot of talk about it. Listen, life's constant to and fro movement is more than a cycle that runs from existence to oblivion and back. It's rather an upward spiral. Man escapes his finite self, but is driven back to make his transcendent achievements an integral part of his individual being. You pray, go up, and every morning when I go to prayer, the prayers are set up in a way that you start here on earth and you end up, you feel like you're just with Hashem, and then they bring you back down again. It's a rats go up and shav, come back. And there are mornings I really feel it, and there are mornings I don't. And I think everybody's the same way. And sometimes, on certain occasions, you get so far away, you get like lost with God. And sometimes you have to be pulled back. And that usually happens when somebody walks up at you and says something, and he realizes, and they'll tap you on the shoulder and get your attention. You just get lost in the whatever it is, the feeling, the closeness to God. So, and everybody can have this feeling, and you don't have to do it by being overzealous. You just have to do what God wants you to do. Don't worry about anybody else. That's their problem, doing what God wants them to do. You do what God wants you to do, what he made you to do, the very reason you exist. Well, wait a minute, why do I exist? How do I know why I exist? You exist, I exist, we all exist for one very specific reason. God started the action of creation. We're here to finish it. We're here to get us to the time when the Messiah comes and we all go up to the level of the next world, the creation of this world will be over. And we won't have these animal bodies anymore. I don't know what kind of body we're going to have. Some people have taken stabs at what it is, but the point is, what makes us angry, jealous, overzealous? The animal part of this body. When that's gone, we're not going to have all those feelings. We're just going to be sitting there with God, learning, I hope eating, and doing a lot of other stuff, you know. But it's going to be a different. We can't even. I can't imagine how the next life is going to be. What we're walking through right now is just a quarter. Some people call it we're moving from the womb and we're being born. The being born is on the next life, not in this life. This is just a pathway. And how we live this life depends on what's going to happen next to us. God wants everybody just to be. What is Torah? Torah is don't do to anybody what you don't want done to yourself, period. The rest of it's all commentary. This is that simple. People don't like to hear it's that simple, but that's what it is. And you guys, all you have to do, if you're a righteous of the nations, you do what Hashem tells you to do. I have to do a little bit more because of who I am, but it's not because I'm somebody better or anything like that. He made a few people teachers, and he wants those people to teach everybody else. Let me tell you, quite honestly, people like to talk to people that have been there and done that. So a lot of people don't like to hear somebody like me tell them what to do or teach them. But that's why we get together with people that know how to explain to people that have been there and done that know how to explain to people how they can been there, done that too, and help other people. And that's why we, at Torah for the Nations, we look for people that can help. And we try to recruit anybody we can. That we especially like to recruit people that have been there, done that in leadership and other religions. Because they know how to talk to people, they know how to get it across. One of our big projects that we'd like to do in the next 18 months is to have people start groups wherever you are around the world. And believe it or not, there are people there right now where you are that think the same way you do. It's just a matter, I'm not trying, I don't tell you evangelize, I'm telling you to look for them. They're there. They're afraid to talk about it. They're afraid. We talked to somebody the other day, husband and wife in Oklahoma. They're having a problem. We're helping them get through the problem. It's just there's getting other people. Now, I met Terry and I met Scotty, two guys in Tennessee. I don't think there was anybody else around. All of a sudden, there's like 3, 4, 5 people. All of a sudden, they're going to put meetings together. Hopefully, if we get some kind of conference going in the Tennessee area, if other people want to come to it, that's fine. Scotty and Terry are putting on a program to teach people, and hopefully it can be duplicated in other places. I'm not going to be here the first night of Passover and last night of Passover, which fall on a Wednesday night. Terry's going to be running the program, and I think he's got something really nicely prepared, and Scotty's helping him with the PowerPoints and everything. This is just going to be a start of what we're going to do. We can do it anywhere. And so anybody who wants to get on board, they're welcome to get on board. The only thing in our zealousness, we start looking all over the place. Give me more. Who can give me more? Who can quench my thirst? Who can do this? Who can do that? And sometimes we run across some people that the water tastes fine for a period of time, and then we find out we're drinking bad water. It happens in every group of people. the biggest problem with the Jews today, there's no rabbi of the Noahites. There's rabbis of kashrut, there's rabbis of holidays, there's rabbis of Shabbat. They know everything you need to know about all these things. There's nobody's a rabbi of Noahites, and they don't teach anything about it. So it's something that we have to learn as we go. I've been teaching non-Jews since about 2002. There are other rabbis out there that have been doing it 15 years or 10 years. And then there are rabbis that think they know, and they're teaching. Let me give you a little warning. I know they're rabbis, and I don't want Lashon Hara, but the minute you hear somebody put down one of our sages, one of our prophets, or the other rabbis, simply get up and walk out of the room. That's not the way things go. I know we have Chabad, we have Breslov, we have this, we have that, and the other thing. And sometimes they don't have something nice to say about each other. But never do they go in public and put somebody down. Never do they go and make themselves better by talking bad about somebody else. That is truly Lashon Hara, the worst thing you can do. The problem is, because of that, I can't even sit here and tell you the names of the people you shouldn't be listening to. You have to discover it on your own. Now, if there was a true thief out there, or I knew that somebody's going to take your money and just steal it, and then I can warn you about that if you tell me you're having an interaction with that person. That's all I can do. Oh, good. So there you go. Angela said she went to City Hall, and she gave look at the chat room. It's very good. Yeah, where's the community? The reason there's no community is nobody's bothering to make the community. That's why there's no community right now. There's no daycare children for the kids. There's no summer camps. There's no meeting places. But that doesn't happen without work. Somebody has to start the work. Like I said the other night, I think in another group, you guys are on the tip of the edge of the tsunami. You guys are going to end up being the sages. You guys are going to end up the movers and shakers of this community. And it's great to teach and talk about it on the internet and put it up on Facebook pages and everything else. But it starts at home. Where's your community? You have to not be ashamed to go look for that community. And don't be put off by scoffers. It's okay. The Wright brothers didn't get put off by scoffers. What, you're going to fly? Oh, yeah, right. You have truth. You have the truth on your side. As long as you speak the truth that you've learned and not what you think you've learned, you guys are going to be the leaders and the movers and shakers of this whole community. There's people in the room from around the world right now. You need to be looking, and I don't mean to evangelize. Scotty uncovered a few people just by talking. People are hiding in their homes that they were afraid to come out, especially people in the Bible Belt. Somebody was talking to me about that yesterday. He says, you're afraid to set foot outside the house. You're afraid to say anything to anybody. Don't be afraid. But don't try to tell them how wrong they are and how right you are. Just plant some seeds with them and see what happens. So it's really good that your house is a meeting place, open anytime people know about it, but don't come or participate. Well, maybe you got to move them to participate a little bit. You in your area, there may be something you have to do. Maybe you most of you live in towns where if you have a small town newspaper, you can buy a little ad space. So people can see an ad that, okay, I don't know how you word the ad. I haven't thought about it. You put a little ad. There's a meeting about whatever, 7 universal laws that God gave to all mankind, something like that. So that people can, hey Larry, so people can have a chance to choose whether to come or not. You guys, no matter what you think, no matter, you're the movers and the shakers. You're the ones that are going to get people going. You sit patiently, you learn, you make yourself stronger, and you're there to help people get through. Just don't be like Nadav and Avihu. Don't be overzealous. Because when you ever get overzealous, you cross some lines. I know what's best. I know what God wants. God wants this for me and that for me. Believe me, if he wants it, he'll communicate it. He does. He really does communicate it to each and every individual part of his creation, because you're a part of him and you're as eternal as he is. Okay, let's open it up. Terry?
I do have a question. I was thinking about actually starting a little question thing on the B'nai Noah group, but situation that happened at work this week, it caused me to, I'm always trying to look and see the depth of the 7 laws without just having to just read it in a book, but actual experience and how you would judge a situation by the 7 laws. We know in Genesis 9, the prohibition of murder it's based on that man is created in the image of God. So I wanted to ask a question. Would racism be a sub point of the prohibition of murder because the person that's being it done to, it creates anger, and those who are doing it sometimes will actually go as far as killing others because of their race. So I mean, there was just a situation at work this week where a guy felt that not anyone at work, but another person was being racist toward them, and he was really, getting angry about how he was being treated, and I got to think of maybe racism would fall as a sub point under murder because of the way you're treating the image of God. I mean, what do you think?
Well, that could be very well. I never thought about it that way before. That could be very well a part of it. But racism violates one of the first things that God teaches us. One of the first things we pray in the morning is that we will treat everybody the way we want to be treated, and we'll respect and love our neighbors. And racism is stupidity. I mean, I don't know how to put it.
No, I agree. But I saw the anger. I saw the anger in this guy's face and how he had been treated because he was Hispanic. He's from Puerto Rico, but he was boiling. Like he ready to. And I thought, well, because of what was being done to him, was causing him to. I mean, I know, granted, you got to learn to control, but when something's happened to you, sometimes you don't have that control till later. So I got to thinking, so that's kind of like murder. Parts of the murder is like not causing someone to blush because the blood comes out of their face. Well, what about the opposite direction?
Yeah, well, no, that's it very well could be. Everything is has different explanations, but the person that was getting so angry also has a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
because he's letting his own personal ego get in the way. When someone says something to us that makes us angry, it's because those words hit our ego, hit the animal side of us that will get angry. So whether it's racism or anything else, if we allow that to make us angry, we allowed it. The other person didn't do it to us. The nation of Israel, from the time it left Egypt, has been accosted by somebody all throughout history. People have called us names. People call us, but do we fight back? You don't see in history where we fight back or we get angry. Individuals may do here and there, but God doesn't want us to do that. Why? Because it feeds a cycle. It takes people away from Him. Mm-hmm. So, here, what amazed me since I've been in Israel, all the years I've been in Israel, a terrorist will kill a bunch of people, kill somebody's son or daughter. And 2 days, the funeral's the same day. 2 days after the funeral, usually the news reporters are in front of people's house or go there to interview them. And you'll find that they don't stand there and rant and rave and rile at the enemy. They essentially say, they accept what happened because it had to be in God's will anyway, but they don't hate the enemy. Very rarely do you see someone hate the enemy or angry at the enemy. And when you hear it, it's so unusual, it hurts your ears. Because we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to defend ourselves, yes. And if we can stop that from happening, yes, we're supposed to do that. God even says, if you know somebody's going to come and kill you, if you know it for a fact, go kill them first. Defend yourself. But what makes us angry and forces us to do these things, most murders are caused by somebody's irrational anger. And lots of times it's by a family member or someone you have a relationship with. But this all follows under the bigotry standpoint. Now, I don't care who you are or where you come from on this planet. Everybody at one time or another has been persecuted, every color, every race, every religion. If everybody stayed angry, we'd still have the wars like we did in the old days.
Yeah.
We don't have them anymore because you can't do that. You have to be forgiving because God forgives us for everything we do. All we have to do is turn to Him and ask for the forgiveness, and we get it. We don't need anything else. He wants us, since He created us in His image, we're supposed to act like He does. When we mistreat somebody, we're actually mistreating God. And people don't realize that. So the guy that got angry is as much, the anger is his fault, not the other guy's fault. The other guy's talking out of ignorance, but he knows it's going to get the other guy riled. So he pushes the button. But it's still the other guy's. It's my fault if I get angry. Period. If I let it hurt me in some way. Look, in the last war, about 20 million people died thanks to the bad guys, the bad guy that opened up the production system how to kill people. It wasn't just the 6 million Jews. There were gypsies. There were people that were born differently than other people. There were people that were in institutions being cured. He just tried to get rid of anybody he felt was imperfect. And we still have people that act that way. They think they're better than other people. But the country itself that this all happened in, did we go in and crush them or something? No. Do we go visit there? Yes. There are plenty of Jews living there? Yes. There's still gypsies living there. There's still the other people living there. Somewhere along the line, there has to be some forgiveness. And we cannot allow our anger, our jealousy, our pride to cause divisions, because we're all part of the one eternal God. Not one of you that I'm looking at right now, and me too, would be here if there wasn't a part of the eternal God in us. Because if there wasn't, we'd be like the animals. Of course, they have a part too in it, or they wouldn't exist, but they don't have the level that we have. We are God's most powerful creation. Now, I'm going to say this in quotes. We're exactly like him. Our thinking is unlimited to a certain point, whatever our brains can accomplish, whoever we are. We have the decision. We have the right to make a decision. Angels can't make decisions. Trees can't make decisions. Elephants can't make decisions. Monkeys can't make decisions. Only human beings created in God's image can make decisions. That makes us VIPs. We're very important people to God. And he gave us a job. He says, here, we took Adam. I'm putting you down in my garden, take care of it. That was Adam's job. And then it was Adam and Eve's job. That's our job. And if we look around at humanity, those of us that sit back and just live our lives have allowed others to destroy this planet. The rainforests, the waters. I was reading an article somewhere in Pennsylvania. Every couple of weeks, there's this terrible, terrible smell that covers 3 or 4 counties, and nobody can find out where it's coming from. People from 3 states are looking, what's making this smell? But can you imagine somebody damaging 3 counties with some stinky smell that goes in people's homes and is all around? We go in a river to drink, in a stream, to drink some water, climb the highest mountain, you're bound to find a Coke can or something in that stream. We're not doing what God wants us to take care of his garden. Now, why does he want us to do that? We're talking about, we're coming up to the time where the tabernacle, the first tabernacle, is going to be built. And God tells us why he wants it built. He says, you build me a tabernacle so I can live there with you. He doesn't say live in the tabernacle. He says live with you, human beings that I created. I want to be there with you. I want my essence to be there. I want to have a relationship with you. So take this tabernacle, and this is going to be our place of meeting for the time being, and it was for 400 years. God lived in a tent until the first temple was built. And then he moved into Solomon's temple, or David's, however you want to call it, Sukkot David, the temple of David. And he lived there for 400 and some years until it was destroyed by people. And it was rebuilt, and he stayed there until it was destroyed, and he allowed it to be destroyed totally the second. And when I say totally, it wasn't rebuilt then after that until this time. Why was it destroyed? The phrase in the Bible is sinat chinam. Sinat is hate, and hinam means worth nothing. Baseless hatred. Well, you're a different color, you're a different sex, you're a different this, you're a different that. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. God says, why do I want to move in with you guys right now? You haven't learned to control yourselves yet. We'll give it a little more time. And we're coming up to the end of that time now. And we all have to work on it. And that's why what's happening today is an absolute, I consider it a miracle. It's not natural what's happening today. Anything that happens that's not natural, is above nature, is a miracle. You guys, it's not natural. You've risen above your nature. I have, Terry has, all you guys there, to do what God wants. Push down our nature, humble ourselves before God, and say, God, it's about you, it's not about us. It's about you, it's not about us. We want to be with you. We want you down here with us. And that's what the next level of life is all about. And it's going to be so wonderful when we get there. Maybe we'll have memories of this, maybe we won't. I'm kind of thinking God's going to let us retain the memories, but that's my own opinion. I don't know. Go ahead, Terry.
Thomas and Scotty's both got their hands raised.
Go right ahead.
Go ahead, Thomas.
Thomas, you go first. You had your hand up first.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. When you're talking earlier about different teachers and stuff and rabbis and that, and how you can't really say nothing because I mean, how do I say it? It's kind of hard. You know something's not right, but if you say something, then you're breaking the law, right? You have to let them find out for themselves. I mean, not unless it's going to harm them or something. That's not good.
Well, but you know what? It's to your credit if you're listening to someone and you hear something that's off. It's your look. One thing that God doesn't want us to do is blindly receive information. Question, question, question. But you don't question when you get what God wants. And you can't say, well, you think that and I think that, because if it's coming from a scholar, a Jewish scholar, basically it's information that's been handed down. And if you go read the sayings of the fathers, it shows you the whole chain, how it got handed down. And then we had the Rishonim, the first sages, the Achronim, the last sages. Then we had the middle sets of people that came in. We had Hari and we had Tzaddikim, righteous princes, every generation to give us more information. If you go against any of them, you're going in the wrong direction. You get to a point where you can hear a teaching and say, well, that's enough of that, and you just reach out and turn it off. Now, if somebody comes to you with the name, in the name of that particular person, oh, I was listening to John Doe the other day. Man, it was really interesting. And you can just say, I don't listen to him. That's it. That's all you got to say.
What if it was taking money out of their pocket? Is that
Out of whose pocket?
like out of your friend's pocket?
Well, but he's got to make the decision what to do. It's not up to you. Look, all of you guys have been in situations where money was coming out of your pocket for a whole lot of years, and you've walked away from it. So you forget about it.
Marriage.
Huh?
It was called marriage.
Well, I'm talking about a different kind of thing too. But which I'm going to say this in a sense, it's just opened up the door to say it. People don't understand that a lot of the people that teach now, nobody pays them to teach. Nobody pays them to do what they do. There's no organization behind them that pays them to do things. When I go to classes and I learn from someone that's much smarter than I, most people, like, there's a little pail on the table. Every single one of the students puts something in. Usually amounts to $10 a class. If you're sitting somewhere and there's 4 classes one after another, you put $40 bucks in. That's part of what's called tzedakah, doing the right thing, being kind, knowing that people that are doing this work for you and are willing to share the information and answer questions, nobody is paying them to do it. Not even, I don't care, the biggest Noahide site you got, unless you actually go in and pay for a course, which a lot of them charge for courses. Nobody pays those people that are working there. They're all volunteers. And when you go to somebody's teaching online, there's a lot of them out there. If you should, even if it's $5, you should do something for them to help them defray expenses. And this is part of tzedakah. This is part of doing the right thing and being kind to people. Plus, you know, like I'm going through the final courses of smicha, becoming a certified rabbi. Even though I have all the information, I have to take these courses and take some tests and all that kind of stuff, which I've never done. And I've taken the courses before and I've never paid for them. And because I didn't pay for them, I didn't get my title. And I'm taking the courses now and I'm paying for them and I'll get my smicha at the end of the time. And I'm glad I audited the classes because now it's much easier for me. It's so complicated. I know I'm not a lawyer now because I just could have never handled being a lawyer. And all the stuff you have to read and to think about. But you know, if you don't value what you're getting, what is it worth to you? Now, I had all this knowledge, and it was for me personally. But now I decided I'm going to go ahead and do the studying and get the title. And not that it means much. It's like a doctor. I'm a doctor so-and-so. What are you a doctor of? Let's see, I forgot what I got my degree in, you know. It's I don't know, I'm teasing. We just got into a point where I could bring this up. I don't bring it up very often, but I just wanted to bring it up now. So anyway, always remember, like if you go to a teacher and somebody's giving you information and you value what they're giving you, give them a little bit back. Let them know about it. And there are those of you that do it, and I appreciate. Doesn't make any difference to the amount. Just every little bit helps. But it's something I noticed a lot of Noahides, because they're so angry at the money they gave, and they're so tired of reaching in their pocket that they've just stopped. They've just stopped. And this is part of the re-education process. That there are people that take the time to do videos and put them up almost every day and to study hard and try to help people. And instead of making a living, instead of making some money for those hours, they're doing this to help people. Should help them back a little bit. It's an important part of giving honor to who it is that whoever you're learning from.
Scotty has his hand up.
I'm sorry, Scotty, go ahead.
No, you are fine. Now, we'll have to, as we say here in East Tennessee, decipher what I'm about to say. And I know you or Terry can do this.
You going to talk about a wisher?
No. No. A lot of the people that I talk to are people still in the church. Okay, so I'm going to present this like I would present it to them. That's why y'all are going to have to decipher this for everybody else. They're probably going to get it. You're not going to be judged according to how you treat somebody who thinks like you. You're going to be judged according to how you treat somebody who doesn't have the same opinions you do. Now, can you all decipher that for me?
I think it's good.
Terry, go ahead.
No, I completely understand what he is saying. Basically, if I had to say it, is so much, especially within religions in this world, wants everybody on in the same boat. You believe as I believe, and as long as you do, we're going to take care of each other. But just like when I walked away from my religion, a lot of my friends walked away from me just because I didn't think the way they thought anymore. Is that what you're saying, Sky?
Yeah, but also in my new walk now, where I am righteous of the nations and Ohad, I don't walk the path of Christianity anymore. But when I discuss things with them, I'm like what Pesach said. There's a lot of people I've connected with over the 40, 50 years of doing that I love them. I've got a connection with them. And just because I changed my walk, I want to bring them with me. Now, they may treat me different. Yes, you're right. But also, even if they did not know let's say somebody of a different culture, Hispanic, all that, I'm judged according, again, I'm using terminology that I would use talking to a Christian. I'm judged more on how I treat somebody. Let's say I see I'm going to use Hispanic because I've been working some Hispanics lately. And if I see them thirsty and I don't give them a drink of water, but I see somebody that believes like I do and they're not thirsty, and I'm going to give them a drink of water first. So did I make that plain?
Yeah. It's our responsibility to, I want to say in one way, treat everyone the same. And what I mean by the same is that, again, the book of Jonah, they were judged on how they treated one another. And that's how we're judged, is on how we treat one another, regardless who that other is.
That was great deciphering, Terry.
Do you know that we never would have had a flood, no matter how bad the people were on the other side and how much stealing they did, if they were kind to one another? That would have saved, no matter how immoral they were, whatever they were doing, whether it was in business and sex and everything else, if they'd been kind to one another, we never would have had a flood. There never would have been a start over.
But if they were kind to one another, the theft would have diminished and everything else. If you really look at the 7 laws, kindness is the common denominator. If you're kind, you're not going to do A, B, C, D. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly right. But even if there had been a little touch of the kindness there, God saw it was starting to flourish, but it didn't.
Like I
They
said,
said Hamas covered the world. Hamas, and you've heard this all the time in the news, Hamas is a terror organization that they call themselves Hamas, the Palestinians. It just means terror or violence. So Terry, Scotty, you got it exactly right, and that's what we need to do. It doesn't make any difference how somebody else treats you. It's how you treat them. Now, if someone treats you unkindly every time you see them, you don't avoid them. I was the same quote in oh yeah, Scott, here's a question for you in the thing there. That what we need to do is not react but act. Consciously act. What we need to do is every time we see somebody, if they're and then they walk away from you, smile and let them just be them and let them walk away. And don't get upset at it, because that's just them being them. You being you, smile, listen, and they walk away and you go about your business. You don't have to one-up them. I remember back in high school, in the halls between classes, somebody would shoot a zinger at you and you had to just one-up them. was always that way. We go like this, one up, I'm one up. It's always the smacking back and forth. And let me tell you, it gets real hard the closer a person is to you to control it. Really, really hard. Now, one of our major things that we have to do, you and I, is learn how to control this animal part of us. Why do I say animal part? Because it's the part that comes from your heart, which is basically controlled by your animal soul. Your heart gets angry, it gets jealous, it makes you want to punch somebody. It's an emotion that has to be mastered. And what's supposed to happen is that emotion goes from your heart up through your head to here, where you have knowledge and wisdom. And your knowledge and wisdom, which is part of the godly part of you, there's a knowledge and wisdom that's part godly, and there's a knowledge and wisdom that's animal. And the godly part has to say, whoa, wait a minute, animal, hang on there. We're not going to do this. We're above that level. We can control this. And I'm here to tell you, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life. I'm a guy that used to have what's called flash anger. Boy, don't cross me. I mean, that's where I was. It happened to me sometime after high school. In high school, it wasn't so bad. After I got out into the world, it got really bad. And I constantly had to, Hannah at the time, may her memory be blessed, she used to say, you know, you embarrass me when you do that. And she said it every time. I'm not proud of it, but I feel real good that I've mastered it. That I realize I don't have to be that way. And I use the strength of God that He gives me to master it. I started off, one day a guy pulled out in front of me and we almost had an accident. And I was ranting and raving and I was cussing at him and I was giving him sign language and everything else. And I said to myself, why am I getting so upset? What I really should do is bless this guy that he gets home safely to his family. And I realized it happened to me just like automatic. Without even thinking, it just happened. So I started doing little tiny things. When you get in line, no matter how hard you decide what line to get in at a supermarket, you're going to get in the slowest. And you got a cashier up there that she's talking to her mother-in-law or a neighbor or somebody and just really slowly doing the stuff. And you got like 10 people in line. And you look around and people are looking at their watches, tapping their feet, hands on shoulders, hands on hips and stuff like that, getting angry at this cashier. I used to do it too. And I decided when I saw somebody like that, I was going to turn to him and smile and say, isn't that a nice day? It just changed the subject from what they were thinking on and what I was thinking on. And guess what? It worked. Before we knew it, we were up there getting checked out. When a guy cut in front of me, I'd say a little prayer to God, may he get home and be safe for his wife and kids. I didn't feel, as soon as I started feeling that come up inside of me, I decided I wasn't going to let it come up. It was an actual brain decision. I don't want to feel that way right now. So I found some other way to deal with it. Somebody said something nasty to me. Okay, say what you want. You're entitled to your opinion. God let you have an opinion, so I will too. Even if it's about me. There's so many ways, little teeny ways we can start to control it right here and right now. I think I said to it last week and the week before, when you get up in the morning and you do thank you, my King, for giving back my soul, and your faithfulness is great in me. The next thing I do is go into the washroom. I never leave the washroom without stopping at the mirror and looking at myself and making sure I'm smiling. Never, ever. I'm going to smile. When I get out of bed, I'm going to be smiling, no matter what's on my mind. When you walk into your family in the morning and they see a smile on your face, it makes them smile. You've changed everybody's day. And if you have someone that's a hard case and they don't want to smile, you ask them for the smile. Your kids, your grandkids, when they come down in the morning, it's an attitude and it's a decision you make. You take control of the animal. You take control of that bucking bronco that you got there, and you tame it down and you ride it the way you want to ride it, and it serves you. You don't have to break it. You don't have to castigate it. You don't have to be mean to yourself to break it. All you want, like, you know, when you bucking bronco and the rider tames the horse, in the beginning, the horse doesn't want to do what the rider wants. In the end, the horse follows the rider around, waiting for him to, let's go for a ride. Let's do something. Let's be together. This is what we have to train our animal to do with the godly part of us. I know it's kind of simplistic, but that's the way my mind puts it together.
Thomas has his hand raised.
Go ahead.
It's like what you're saying about the anger thing. I know where you're coming from there. There's still a few things that get me flared up, not like I used to. But it's like you can pray for patience. Is he going to give you patience, or is he going to give you situations where you can learn patience? Which I'm not going to lie, I wasn't too happy with, because some of them situations. But now that I know, like what you said about the line in the grocery store, some reason every line I choose, something happens or something breaks down or they're gabbing. It don't bother me now. Back in the day, I would have said, could you please put that tomato in your mouth and get to stepping? But, yeah, I realized I'm not just going to be given patience. He's given me situations where I can learn how to do it. And he's been teaching me pretty good. Because there's a lot of things that don't bother me at all anymore. I just smile and it's gone.
That's the way to do it, Thomas.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I'll tell you a quick story. And I've told it before. There's a lady here in Spot who's friends with my wife. And she has complaints all the time. Every time they go somewhere, somebody steps on her toes. The room can have 3 people in it. Somebody's going to step on her toes. And that's all she talks about. Somebody bumps into her and steps on her toes everywhere she goes. How much more is guy going to send more people to step on her toes and bump into her until she decides to be patient with it and just say, okay, it's happened. The minute she accepts it, it's going to go away. The more you talk about it, the more you draw it to yourself, whether it's anger or whatever it is. You actually are drawing it to yourself like a magnet. God's going to say, oh, you're angry right now because that happened. Let's do it again and see how angry you get. Because he wants you to realize the anger is not right. The hate is not right. So this is what we call a test, but not a test to see if you're good or bad. It's a test to make you stronger in what you're doing. To make you realize, oh, I shouldn't think about it. Abraham had 10 tests. Everybody gets tests, but they're not tests. Do you get 100% or 80%? It's like testing steel. When they make steel, it's called tempering. The more you temper it, the stronger it gets. What is that? You bring it up to fire, man. It's just heat and it's anger and it's everything else, and you throw it into cold water, and it cools down. Well, this is what God is doing to us. He's showing us that we can survive whatever that thing is in front of us, and we don't have to get upset about it. We can survive it. We don't have to get upset. Who else wants to say something?
Larry's hands up.
Go ahead, Larry.
Hey, how's everybody? Good to see everybody tonight.
Good to see you.
One thing, my wife and I worked at a residential boys facility. We had boys from 7 to 17 who were from homes that were very difficult, to say the least. I'm a great believer that the only problem with teenagers, kids, is their parents. But anyway, so when we went there, we were going to go and love them, and we were going to really show them how to live and be good. And of course, very quickly, I find myself acting like them. And then Sam Peake, of blessed memory, shared something with me that really helped me dramatically. I think it's from the Baal Shem Tov. I think the original quote with him, may his memory be a blessing, but you see what you are. And so that really became a mantra of mine to overcome the symptom of anger. How do we get to anger? Well, something deeper inside ourselves, like you were talking about. What we see in other people is what we're reflecting back to ourselves. It's what we're seeing in ourselves. And once I grasped that and started working with that, it has truly helped me realize, okay, so if I'm seeing that problem in them, that means it's in me. Oh, so the problem in that person, I got to work on me. And that has probably done more to get me, I think it's a very typical thing for most men. Anger is a real huge issue, because when we are born as men, our brains are flooded with testosterone. And the amygdala is the area which this all comes from. This is one of those things I learned about these boys. Why are they that way? What's causing them? What's driving them? And we got some real shouting matches to start with until I learned this simple principle. And once I did that, it was amazing how I didn't respond back to them in kind. And it was a big, huge help. So that little statement by the Baal Shem Tov was huge in helping me look at people differently and try to, oh gosh, I can't remember which rabbi I just recently read that really said you need, I think it was Rabbi Nachman actually. If you see something in someone, keep looking, because there is some good there. You just have to keep looking for it. And then once you see that, then you can build on it for them and also for yourself. And so that was a huge help for me in dealing with all this.
Actually, Larry, that excellent point. And both of those ideas actually come from the Baal Shem Tov. We call it the mirror effect. If you get angry about something in somebody else's because you're seeing you have that defect and it's just being reflected back to you in them. And when you stop reacting to it, that you've conquered your own. That's what happens. And there was a businessman that I worked for quite a few years, and I was general manager of his company. And I noticed when he when someone would get angry and shout at him or speak loudly to him, he would start to drop his voice down. Instead of making it big, he'd start making it small. And I watched the other people, and to hear him, they have to respond to his making the voice small, and all of a sudden their voice comes down. And I looked at that, I said, wow, what a great example of what the Baal Shem Tov said. The other thing is, there is nobody that doesn't have good in them. Now, how can I say this and know that it's true? Real easy. 6 days of creation, God said it's good. Everything he created was good. That means every single human being, no matter how evil they appear to us, they have good. And it's a basic teaching, and it's commanded by God. If someone goes in front of a court, the Sanhedrin, for whatever reason, if there's a unanimous decision by the judges that he's guilty, he's set free. Wait a minute. What do you mean? Well, the whole thought behind it is if there wasn't one person that could stand up and say, well, this person really is a good person, here's why he's a good person. If nobody looked that close at the person, then they were blinded and did the judgment in error. This is the truth. And this is how the courts work in the Sanhedrin, the rabbinical courts. There always has to be someone that shows the good. And that spilled over into the United States justice system where everybody gets a public defender. Not that it does good for everybody, but that's the whole reason it's there. When you look at somebody and you say, what a nasty person, what a terrible person, how bad is this person? You're making a mistake. You always have to find the good in the person. You know that our sages say that I don't care how guy's the biggest thief in the world and he's doing all kinds of bad things. But the moment he does tzedakah, for that time that he's doing tzedakah, he's righteous. And he has a choice, continue being righteous or go back the way you were. Every one of us has the same choice. And that was a very good observation you gave us, Larry. Thank you for that. That was great.
You're welcome. It's interesting. And my dad had the same kind of boss. And my dad said when you went in there and he was upset with you, he'd get so quiet. You have to get as close to him as possible to hear what he was telling you. So, yeah, it was pretty. I remember telling me that story.
Terry, anybody else had their hand up?
No. If anybody got anything to say or ask questions, go for it.
Andre, good to see you. You're making me hungry, buddy. I'm going to get up from here. I'm going to go get something to eat.
I'm just sussing it all out, mate.
Yeah, well, good. Andre used to be from Australia. Now he's in the USA, around Houston or something, right?
Correct.
Okay, good. I'm glad you and Melissa are there and you're getting some instruction and things are going good for you.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. I'd just like to say something, actually. I'm trying to work this little app out on my phone. So forgive me if I'm getting it all wrong. I'm just going through a few things and scrolling. But anyway, one thing that I just recognized is when you were talking about doing good to others is, you know, Sodom, in Ezekiel 16, it actually talks of Sodom being full of pride. And Hashem speaking to Israel, like your sister Sodom. So Sodom used to do what? The Shabbatical things, the Moedims and things like that. But I found out that a lot of people think that they went down for sexual perversion and things like that, which they did. But also they, in Ezekiel 17, it actually says that they went down because they were full of pride and not feeding the poor and not doing good to others.
Yeah, it was the same reason we had a flood, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you read the story and all the stuff that happened, it focuses on the sexual immorality. But they had a law in the town that it was forbidden to do good for strangers.
Right.
So that's what we don't do.
Anyway, just my two bobs worth.
All right, thank you, Andre. Thank you.
I'll just listen to you.
All right.
Angela's got her hand raised.
Where'd she go?
Oh, she may hit the wrong button.
Saying goodbye.
Oh, she's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think she was waving by.
Yeah, I think she's waving by.
Pesach, if you kept going on, I was going to have to break out my PowerPoint here that I was going to talk about when you weren't here. Scotty knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and just for a quick info, Pesach, have you got a window open? Is that birds I'm hearing singing?
Yes, that's the birds waking up.
Okay.
That's the birds waking up. I didn't know you could hear them, but there we go. We have, it's amazing. When you drive through Texas, there's this, when you stop at the rest stops and stuff, there's this kind of black bird with an orange beak, kind of thin beak, and it makes a certain call. We have them here in Israel, the exact same bird. I heard this bird one morning. Down by the coast, we didn't have them, but up here in the mountains, I heard this bird. I said, wait a minute, that's a Texas sound. And I went outside and looked, and sure enough, it looks like the identical bird. Now, I'm not a bird watcher, but maybe it's a little bit different, but it's making the same sound and stuff. So I thought it was pretty cool. But yes, this is time. What time is it? It's 4:30 in the morning. They're starting to wake up. Terry, anything you want to put in?
No, I thought everything was really good tonight. I really liked some of the things that you brought out. I like how you brought out this. The wonderful thing about God is that when you do what He asked, that He has given us, you cannot be any closer to Him. I thought that was really good. So many people strive to do this and that to get close, and it comes from our previous religious experiences that we really haven't. A lot of Noahides, and even myself, I fall in this. We haven't grasped the fact of just doing what we're asked. We can't be any closer. We think we've got to do all this to get close, when all we just have to do is like Noah and do what he said, what he commanded. It's a really good, strong point for us.
That it's so important. Look, Noah was righteous in his generation, right? Well, in his generation, it didn't take much to be righteous in front of God. And Abraham, God counted. Well, the way it says it in the Torah, he counted his faithfulness as righteousness. And it's funny because the way the Torah is written, did Abraham say, well, God's faithfulness to me, I'm going to count as righteousness? Or did God say to Abraham, because you're faithful to me and do what I said, I'm going to count that as righteousness? There's all kinds of discussions in Jewish literature about that. We automatically say God is saying to Abraham, because you're doing what I tell you to do, you're righteous. You notice the faithfulness is an action. You're doing what I tell you to do. But either way you look at it, Abraham was saying to God, because of your actions, then you're righteous for me.
Another thought I had, as far as Noah goes, he had to have been a very strong character because of the generation he was in. He didn't allow them to sway him. It's so easy when you're in a crowd to be drawn in, to even act a little bit like them, and he didn't. And I've thought about that. He had to have been a strong character not to have been swayed by that generation.
I got to tell you, whenever I think of him, let's see, that was who played Noah back then? John Voight, is that his name?
I don't remember.
John Voight, and who played his wife?
It was John Huston, actually.
What?
It was John Huston.
No, I'm not talking about that version of Noah.
Okay.
John Voight and the wife, I'm pretty sure was Susan Sarandon or something like that. But I see her on the edge of a field, cleared field, with her hands on her hips, and the sons walk up, and one of them says, "What's going on?" And she says, and you see John Voight in the background going like this and going like this and going like this. Just, oh, your dad's talking to God again. And it just cracked me up when I saw it. He was the only one in the whole generation to talk to him. Even his family didn't talk to him, only them. And it just cracks me up when I see that. And every time somebody says, no, that's the picture that comes in my head.
I think Andre has something to say. Yeah, did you have your hand raised, Andre?
Yeah, I was just thinking of something that Pesach was saying a little bit earlier about your blog. Was that right?
Yes.
Speaking about doing good and doing good deeds. Is that what it was about? Just can't. You got to refresh me what you were on about.
It's more like how you can be zealous for something, and it makes
yeah,
got the wrong impression for your children.
And I was talking about Aaron's two sons being taken. And yes, you're right. But I remember it says a lot in Devarim, which is a concise version of the first 4 books, as we know, that Hashem was speaking to Moshe on the mountain. He says that if you follow the pattern of what I'm telling you about Torah, you will receive the blessings, and if you don't, you'll receive the cursings. And that's what I was going to say, mention about that. That's all.
Okay. You know, that's a tough section to read about the blessings and the curses. But you understand that this is a whole lesson. I don't want to get into it right now. We will get into it. I'm going to write it down now because the curses weren't really curses. You see, in everything God does, there's revealed good and there's unrevealed good. So in the negative that God speaks, there's unrevealed good. It's there for us to find if we happen to go that direction. So, but that's a whole different teaching, and we can get into that another time, and I'm going to write it down and make sure that I remember it.
Is that with regards to unintentional sin and intentional sin? Is that?
We'll get into that whole thing when I'll do a teaching on it. That's the best thing to do. If you do something b'shogeg, it's called in Hebrew.
Yeah.
Unintentional.
Okay.
If you do something b'shogeg and you don't know and nobody points it out to you, there's no sin offering. There's no penalty for that. So no, that's a whole different teaching.
Yeah.
So if anybody has anything else to say right now, let's talk about it. Look, I really appreciate you guys being here. I know we do a long session, but I think I don't even know if somebody tunes in and they look at watch the whole thing because it's so much longer than most people's attention span. And I really appreciate you guys sitting here and listening. It's just great. And Martha, Veronica, Andre,
Pesach,
Paul, Larry, yes.
have you ever been to San Angelo since you were near Abilene? There was a restaurant called Mejor Canada. It was a very good restaurant, but what Mejor Canada means is better than nothing. I hope you get the humor and all that. But
yeah,
it's really good to be here. Yes, I'm glad I was able to get there. So thank you so much.
Yeah, hope to see you guys back next week.
I'd like to say hi to my son. My son's back tonight.
There he is. How you doing, David? And Thomas and everybody. Wow, just love it.
Thank you, Pesach.
Thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow night.
Well, night for you. And
yeah, night for me, daytime for you. Anybody wants to set up anything with me, talk to me or anything, just get a hold of me. I got time. We'll make time. If anybody needs anything, wants to talk about something, or even if they need some counseling, I'm here waiting for you guys. Blessings to everybody. This is the 2nd of Adar, the new month. in the month of Adar. Enjoy the month. It's a month of joy and blessings because Purim is in that month, and everybody knows what happened then. And next month, about 6 weeks away, that's when Terry gets to take the helm for 2 weeks. He's got what did he used to say? You've got the helm, Terry.
I guess.
And thank you all so much for everything. God
Thank
bless.
you. Good night.
Good night.
Right.